Well, here's an update video on the MTZ 5LS, which is, well, pretty much it's actually a very old tractor, and actually it's not a Belarus at all, despite this says, but that's a different subject. The reason why I'm making this video is when we take the oil dipstick out, we can see there's way too much oil in the engine bay, like where that P sign is. This is where actually the correct oil level should be, which, by the way, this it contains about 12 liters of oil, so this is way over. And well, what would be the reason of, you know, the oil level suddenly or slowly starting to increase? Well, there's only two reasons. Either you're getting diesel fuel into the crankcase, but in that case you would have also a lot of white smoke, but I don't have that. So the second reason can be that you have a hydraulic pump where the main seal has failed and it's slowly seeping in oil from that seal that's gone bad. So I believe I have that case. So either way, I need to take the oil pan off anyway, because I believe the oil pump's worn as well, and there's some other things here that need to be reconditioned and checked out. Well, for those who are, you know, my Russian viewers, please be patient. I'm not that good with, you know, talking in Russian that well. I know about some of the terminology is a bit, well, I would say I don't remember all the words, so I'm going to do the way where I feel it's more comfortable for me to do. So now the first thing before we will tackle the hydraulic pump, which is, I believe this is an InShot 32L, which is actually a counterclockwise spinning hydraulic pump. But the main thing is we may have to remove some of the hoses, and before removing the main oil pipes we have to actually drain the hydraulic tank. Well, draining the hydraulic tank, I'm gonna warn you, if you're going to open the plug, which this is the drain plug for the hydraulic tank, you're gonna have a major oil spill. So make sure you have, you know, nothing will fit here that will suck up all the oil, but I need to actually build an oil sump and guide all that hydraulic oil into the I don't know, somewhere where it won't contaminate the ground. So that's the plan, and people who are like asking me, probably asking what kind of hydraulic oil I'm using. Well, originally this thing should have MGE 46. That's some kind of it's a kind of typical Soviet Russian hydraulic oil, but I'm using HVLP 46, which is something that's been used in all these modern tractors, excavators, loaders, because that oil for me is a bit cheaper and in quality terms much better. So probably some old schoolers who I told I have this issue, they said, well, why don't you use, you know, engine oil in the hydraulic tank? That would save the problem. Well, it doesn't change anything. I mean, engine oil in the hydraulic system is not the greatest solution, and I believe if the seal has gone bad on the pump, it's just easier to replace the seal, or if the pump's worn out, we may have to actually replace the entire pump with it. So either way, I think like just using engine oil in the hydraulic tank is not the solution. Not that kind of solution I would choose. So I'm gonna build a oil sump and suck and guide out all that hydraulic oil and drain the system, and we're going to start dismantling this and tackling the first problem. Well, we're here a few hours later and we have the hydraulic pump taken off. Now, as I suspected, the front main seal, which sits here, now this is the old seal and it's rock hard and yeah, it's failed. The new one is exactly the same, but it's soft and will fit nicely, so that's not a problem. So, well, why the seal failed? I believe it's just the old age. I mean, granted this pump isn't new, so I have no idea when this pump was rebuilt, so it could be 30 years old. Who knows? I mean, I don't see anything wrong with the shaft. The pump turns, it didn't make any noises. So I don't think it's because there's overpressure. Like sometimes when there's overpressure in the system, the seal would get knocked out and all that hydraulic oil would drain into the oil pan immediately. Well, in my case, it has been, you know, slowly seeping into the crankcase, and that's probably because of that bad seal. Now, I did get the hydraulic tank drained, but yeah, this was a little accident, but no worries. I got it under control. So there's a lot of sawdust here, and I also collected all the oil that got spilled over, so it will get disposed properly. So the environmentalists won't kill me, at least, I hope. So this is the setup. I mean, the hardest part are these 4 bolts to get, especially these 2 and this one, because there's not enough space to work here. I mean, if it wouldn't have the front frame and the lower frame for the blade, I could just take the side rail off and it would be just easy. But, you know, right now I just have to work my way differently. But I did look at inside. I don't see, there's the gear that meshes with one of the other gears inside the engine, so that one actually turns the pump. This is the lever that switches on and off the pump. And I do see there's, you know, the oil, hydraulic oil has drained down the crankcase. I mean, was over 70 liters of oil in the crankcase, which most of that was just hydraulic oil mixed with the engine oil. But this engine has had now, this is the 3rd oil change on this engine, and every time I change the oil, the engine gets cleaner from the inside. I mean, when I first got this engine, this was, you know, full to the brim with all sorts of old gunk. Now it's actually, you know, it's getting clean. But anyway, I'm going to clean up this mess here and start, you know, fix the seal and start seeing, maybe I can, oh, actually I need to also get a new rubber seal here and up there. There are 2 rubber seals. They're different size. This one is larger and the upper one is slightly thinner. If I can find those seals, I'll show them in the camera, but this is the first job we have to do, and when I'm here, I'm actually have to clean the block a bit because, yeah, it's not looking really nice. But also a pro tip, if you can't get to this bolt, this is a 12 socket bolt, 12 millimeter bolt here, and okay, it's an 8 bolt and a 12 millimeter head. That's how it should be correct. So if you want to get to this bolt, you need to remove one of the oil tubes for the oil cooler, because there is not enough clearance to put a regular wrench there. Unless you have some kind of special tool, it's just freaking impossible. And also, draining the hydraulic tank is the worst job ever. I mean, if you're going to ever drain one, be prepared that there's going to be a hell of a lot of oil coming, and I would recommend a 40 liter oil pan, or at least something where to catch all that oil, because if it comes, there's, you know, there's not even a peacock or anything to let the oil out, you know, drip slowly. Yeah, I mean, this solution is kind of bad, but what the hell can I do? Those were the 1960s and 50s engineers that invented this, so not something I should be complaining about. So I'm gonna do some cleanup and see you in a while. Okay, it's the next day, and as you can see, I have put the oil pump back into its original position, and I also put the two oil pipes back to their original places. Now, I put only a few liters of hydraulic oil into this to see if there's any leaks, any seeping that I can fix before I fill the tank completely. Now, when installing the pump, there's a tip I can give, is you actually want to take this lever and pull it all the way down as possible. And the gear will slide out with the pump, and it will go, and the back, and if you put it back, it goes the other way around. So basically, that's a helpful tip. Otherwise, you'll be having a really hard time to get this pump gear meshed correctly with the gear inside the engine. So that's a pro tip. So hopefully there are no hydraulic leaks, but we'll see. I think it's fixed. And also a better gasket here, so we won't have oil stains everywhere. So the oil is drained. I'm actually, now we're going to the phase 2. Phase 2 is taking off the oil pan and seeing the condition of the oil pump. I think this one has, because this is a rebuilt engine somewhere in the late 1980s, I believe the oil pumps and everything related to them is just pretty worn or just pretty bad. Also, the oil pan is kinked in and it's slightly bent, so when you actually tighten this to the block, you can see that there are gaps. But I bought another oil pan, which is another D65 oil pan. Now, D65 is the engine I have. The only difference I could find between the old and new one is this ridge, which has been stamped in. So that is the only difference, and the color is, yes, slightly different than the tractor is, but the inside's pretty clean. I mean, all I need to do is clean the surfaces, clean the oil pan with brake cleaner, and if the weather allows me, maybe also paint it the correct color, which is this reddish color instead of this blue one. So that would be the next step, but I'm going to take the old oil pumps off, and we're gonna see in comparison what's actually wrong with this engine. Well, now the engine's working, but it did have a problem that the oil pressure was dropping, slowly dropping as the engine was warming up, and I could only have decent oil pressure, which is 3 kilograms per square centimeter. I don't know how much that makes in foot-pounds, but anyway, it was only possible to hold that oil pressure when the engine was on high RPM. Now, granted, the high RPMs won't destroy the engine, they won't do anything, but, well, one cause could be, the hydraulic oil was mixing with the engine oil and it was making the oil, lose its viscosity. But I believe also that the oil pumps wore. Now, the last time I was in here, I noticed that one of the front gears was having a slop in it, and the oil pump itself was a bit sloppy. So I know a lot of these old schoolers, what they do is they go here, there's a reduction, there's actually a valve here for, regulating the oil pressure. They would, just start tampering with this. I will say, at any time, do not do that. If you go to that road, you will have an destroyed engine within no time. So please just don't do this. Well, anyway, hopefully this thing holds oil and we don't have any more of that issue, but we'll see. Time to get to phase 2.